On a desolate stretch of coast, the small town of Brinehaven faced the ocean like a sentinel. It was a quiet place, the kind of town where everyone knew everyone else, and the secrets of the past were buried beneath layers of polite conversation. The lighthouse, long abandoned, stood like a skeletal guardian over the rocky shore, its light extinguished decades ago. One evening, a violent storm rolled in from the horizon, churning the sea into a furious cauldron. The waves crashed against the rocks with a vengeance, and the wind howled through the streets like a chorus of tortured souls. The townspeople, accustomed to the occasional tempest, secured their homes and huddled inside, waiting for the storm to pass. As midnight approached, the storm reached its peak. The ocean seemed to boil under the relentless assault of the wind and rain, and then, as suddenly as it had begun, the storm ceased. An eerie silence fell over Brinehaven, more unsettling than the fury that had preceded it. A thick, unnatural fog began to roll in from the sea, creeping over the land like a shroud. The moon, previously hidden by storm clouds, emerged, casting a ghostly light over the mist. It was then that the first figure emerged from the water. Shannon Burke, the local baker, was the first to see them. She had been drawn to her window by a strange compulsion, a feeling she could neither explain nor resist. At first she thought her eyes were playing tricks on her. Shapes moved in the fog, slow and deliberate. As they drew closer, she could make out the details. Seaweed-clad bodies, their skin pallid and bloated, eyes empty and lifeless. They were the dead, and they were walking out of the sea. Panic seized Shannon, and she stumbled back from the window, her heart pounding in her chest. She reached for the phone, but the line was dead. The electricity flickered, casting the room into brief moments of darkness. She felt a chill in the air, a cold that seeped into her bones. The dead were coming ashore. All over Brinehaven, doors and windows burst open, and people screamed as the undead swarmed through the streets. The creatures moved with a relentless, unyielding purpose, their gaping mouths emitting a low, mournful moan. They seemed to be searching for something, or someone. Shannon knew she had to escape. She grabbed a flashlight and bolted out the back door, heading towards the lighthouse. She wasn't alone. Others had the same idea, and a small group of survivors converged on the lighthouse, their only hope of sanctuary. Inside the dilapidated structure, they barricaded the door and huddled together, listening to the relentless approach of the dead. The old keeper's log lay open on a dusty table, and Shannon's eyes were drawn to a particular entry dated 100 years earlier. It spoke of a shipwreck, a cursed vessel lost at sea, and the souls of its crew condemned to wander the depths forever. A chilling realization settled over Shannon. The storm had awakened the curse. The dead were not just aimless corpses. They were seeking revenge on the descendants of those who had wronged them, those who had plundered their ship and left them to die. As the undead began to batter the lighthouse door, the survivors knew they had little time. Shannon, with a newfound determination, searched the keeper's log for any clue on how to break the curse. Her fingers trembled as she read about an ancient ritual, one that required a personal sacrifice to appease the restless spirits. With no other options, Shannon stepped forward, offering herself to the sea. Her friends protested, but she was resolute. She knew it was the only way to save the town. She slipped out through a narrow window, making her way back to the shore where the dead awaited. As she waded into the icy water, she felt their cold, clammy hands grasping at her. She closed her eyes and spoke the words of the ritual, her voice steady despite the terror that gripped her heart. The fog thickened, and the air grew still. Then, one by one, the dead began to retreat, sinking back into the depth from which they had emerged. The last thing Shannon saw before she was pulled under was the moon, shining down on the calm, eerily still waters. The dead had returned to their watery grave, but Brinehaven would never forget the night the sea gave up its dead. And every year, on the anniversary of the storm, the town held a vigil, lighting lanterns along the shore to honor the memory of Shannon Burke, the woman who had saved them all.